Welcome, everyone. I am Patti.
I'm Jackie. And together we are Grow Live, where we answer your farm and garden questions and offer gardening knowledge of the best practices weekly. Our mission is to help you and others grow a healthier world. One question at a time, one garden at a time. Our goal is to help you be successful in growing healthy food and creating a healthier planet.
Hey, how you doing this morning, Jackie?
Oh my gosh, I'm so awesome this morning. I have my music. I'm ready to go.
Yay, I am getting excited. My sprouts are growing big and things are happening for sure. But I hear some people are wondering, how do we decide what our topic is each week? And we are following the time of the year and the seasons. So I decide what activity I'm doing this week or should be doing this week. And then we decide that's the topic, because I've discovered a lot of people really aren't sure about that. So that's how we're deciding that. So, but our goal is that the first time gardeners and even those gardeners that aren't quite master gardeners yet will know better on what they're doing when.
That's me for sure. I've been trying to figure that out, but I learn more and more. So some people might be wondering, where are we? Where are we airing this show from? And a little more about you and I. We both live really close to the North 49th parallel. Patti lives on the high plains, which is a semi-desert area that gets about 12 to 14 inches of annual moisture. Mike and I are 435 miles from Patti in the mountains at a higher elevation with 17-inch annual moisture. And we are both very close to the Canadian border. We're about 14 miles at my house.
Yes, that's pretty far north. I think we're roughly 60 miles from the border. But I wanted people
right up against the Rocky Mountains. So Mike is constantly hauling off wheelbarrows full of rocks. It's very rocky.
Yeah, they don't have much soil, and we've got extremely deep, but extremely gumbo clay. So two completely different growing things, but hopefully we can bring help to lots of variants of people because of that. So being this far north, our goal is to help as many people as we can to grow healthier plants, to have healthier food. So, Jackie, what are we doing this week?
We're doing our cabin fever series, which I have like to the max. I've been told to prune apple trees in the winter. Is that right? Is it time right now when it's snowy outside?
That is correct. What we want to do is do that when they are dormant.
Yeah.
So these are apples from the one tree, to give you an idea. Here is our tools.
We have all those tools.
Yep. A lot of people have these tools. They just don't choose to always use them or know when to use them, right? So that's where we're here to help. But boy, I want to get this point across that we do need to be cleaning them between uses. And you do want to get the rust off these. I've had to work a little bit at that. So you need to be adding some oil to those tools. If you don't know how to do that, sharpen those tools. I'll talk about that at the end of the show when we get into some chit chat here. So some of our goals are maybe this particular apple tree, and that's the tree that produced those apples we see in the vase there, is right beside another bush. So it really is only a half an apple tree. And I prune it to be a half apple tree. So we got to go in with some purpose when we have these smaller yards and know what we're trying to do. Same way with this, you can't even tell there's a plum tree in there, can you? Because this grape.
Where's the plum tree?
The grape is crawling over the plum. The plum is right here and it's coming this way with branches on two layers of cable there. I've got wire. And I'm going to put another grape back over here this year, edible one instead of a jelly one, a seedless. So if we have a goal, right, we can meet our goals with these trees. We just got to know what our goal is and what we're attempting to do. There's a picture of the plums. The grape is now clear over on that side, but this is a grape leaf, right? So they're sharing some photosynthesis space, which I'm okay with that. It's a very hot location and there's plenty of sun.
Wow, those are big cones.
Same with here, right? This is a apple tree, and I'm just starting to train the framework of this tree. And here's another one. And the two of them are going to come together here in the middle is my goal. So I'm going to make that happen through pruning. So when do we do it? We do it in the dormancy. Now, Jackie's bear sound like it did it in the dormancies too. Now there can be nothing more natural than a bear probably pruning them, but it's probably not going to take out the broken branches like you'd like it to do. So I'm only going to talk about apples today because we want to keep this kind of short and not too long. And so this is some apple trees at the school that I manage the yard on. And the students and I have decided which structural framing we want to keep on these apples. And if I had it to do over again, I would have done it different. And so I've learned from a lot of mistakes. Like these branches are way too low to the ground. So they prefer, and I do now, prefer that the first branch would be no lower than this one. So that would mean I'd have to remove 3 more branches that I don't want to remove because we allowed it to do this. We should have let it, this was its main leader. We should have let it branch out there, but we were super excited to get these big branches and we let them grow. And so we got to kind of be thinking a little bit about what are we attempting to do? So one thing we for sure are attempting to do, we don't want to be using ladders to crawl up in the tree, to prune them, or to harvest them. I want to be able to pick them right on the ground. And so our goal is to not let that apple tree get taller than we can reach. So that's why we've purposely cut this upper part out so that it's going to do that. That's our goal. And yep, some other trees.
I have 2 questions. 1, the timer just went off. And 2, didn't you call that the 3-foot rule when you were here?
Yep. Yep. So like this branch, and this branch would have to go. This one's got to go this year for sure. That one's got to go this year for sure. And probably this one coming out the side, but not the whole structural part of the tree, but these young sprouts coming off. I'll get to some more pictures here. First thing you want to do, we're going to have to ignore a little bit of the timer, but let me know when it's 9:30. You want to remove any broken branches and any branches that cross. The kids have done a great job at this. Anytime a brow comes up here, a new sucker comes in here and starts growing into the middle of the tree, the kids know we don't want that. We want it open in the middle because we want to have lots of air go through there and ventilation. And we also want each one of these branches to get its own share of photosynthesis. So that's kind of the goal. So remove all dead, broken, and crossing branches. That's the first thing you remove. We can remove as much as up to 1/3 of the tree. So rarely do you have to start worrying about, I'm taking too much, unless you're just really having to revive an old tree. I'm going to skip this if I can. Did it let me? No. Oh, maybe it won't let me. I guess I won't. I guess you'll see how cold it is. See these new growths coming up here? Those are water suckers. We're going to be taking those off. And those are fruit spurs, which I'll show you another close-up of those. Those we want, that's where the fruit is going to be on this tree next year. So we're really going to be taking out anything in the middle, these ones coming up here. And get this go on. Yeah. Okay, so that's what we'd be taking on that tree. You can do it any time that it's dormant. So you could have done it way back in the fall, right after the leaves and all the sap went down into the ground. You could have done it then. I usually wait, because I do this with kids, I usually wait until the end of March, maybe 1st of April, depending on the weather, right? If it's still super cold, do it. But if it's starting to warm up and the buds are starting to swell on any cottonwood trees or anything, getting bigger and bigger, then don't do it. So you want to do it before it's cold. I wouldn't recommend going out the day I filmed this because it was 30 below zero and I would have got a lot done. But so you're going to remove so that everybody can get sun. So figure you're looking down, straight down onto this tree, and you want each one of these branches coming out to get its own share of the photosynthesis. Remove all broken, and you're taking it back, it's right back to the main branch with really, really sharp pruners. Here's what a fruit spur looks like. Don't remove those other than in this situation, I'm gonna have to, right? Because ideally, I think we want them 4 to 6 inches apart because we're gonna have an apple on each one of those and sometimes multiple apples on each one of them. We don't want them hitting each other and banging up against each other. So on this tree, I'm probably gonna choose to remove both of these and keep this one. Or just remove this one and let them go ahead and have apples, and then we'll deal with that come spring. I'll show you what to do if we choose to do that. Here's some more fruit spurs. That's probably not too bad of distance between of them. Just make sure you know what those are, because that's the only thing that's going to give you fruit next year. So all these young branches coming up that are young from this year, they're not going to produce. Here's a little diagram from the internet to help you kind of decide what can I do with this fruit tree. Now those fruit trees you've been looking at in my yard and those ones at the school are all standard trees. That means they could get 25 foot tall if I just let them. I'm just not going to let them. I keep pruning them out of the middle and out of the top so they don't do that. The trees on my fences we're choosing to do this way. And there's lots of great videos on how to do that. And this tree, same way, you know, we're gonna we got some crossing going on over here. We're gonna have to take one of those bigger branches out this year. And so you just kind of read it and see, well, this one's getting pretty tall, right? We're gonna have to start taking it back, probably take it right back to this fork and decide if it got a nice fruit spur, then I'm going to take the branch above the fruit spur and keep it. But we want to nip it in the bud where it just doesn't keep growing bigger and bigger, because I don't want to be up there in a ladder. Now, if your goal is to get all that fruit you could possibly get, then you might want to have it on, you might want to harvest on a ladder, and then you're not going to prune these up in here. But you do need to still keep it kind of like a wine glass, get it open. So Jackie, we had a question, didn't we, about doing it in small spaces or something or other? What was our question? Anyhow, on these trees that we're choosing to do against a fence or against a house, we're going to choose our main structure of this tree. And this is the one that was in the picture in the beginning with the big plums on it. So it's just this branch and this branch and these two up here. Now I chose which ones I wanted to live, and then I started bowing them down. See these little plastic ties that's tied to a heavy duty wire that's cabled to the fence. So then I train them to go straight across instead of they want to go up, and I'm training them to go straight across. And then I remove anything that's coming out front here and everything that's coming off the back. So it's really growing flat against the fence. It's really cool. But it does take a lot of extra work, right? Versus my other tree that's right out in the open. But so like I said in the beginning, these two trees, as I get them trained, they're going to start, their branches are going to come together clear out here, and there'll be 2 and maybe 3. These ones I'm trying to let grow to the top of the fence, so I'll have 3 main branches coming off both sides of those trees. So is there any questions?
Well, I opened up that document before, but I guess I didn't look at it close enough. I don't see the questions, so either I have the wrong document open or...
Oh no, there was just the one about the spacings. And if you could grow in small spaces, right? This is just a backyard and I've got 7 fruit trees in it and getting ready to add another elderberry and another grape to this growing area. So you can grow a lot of food in small spaces just by knowing what do I need to do to those trees and be willing to do some pruning in the winter. And these ones that are growing against the fence, we're going to have to prune in the summer too. So that will be a different event video to help you with that. Yeah, Lori, what do you got?
So, you know, I got that little whip last year that I planted.
Yeah.
Do I just basically trim all of the side shoots off if there are any until it gets about 3 feet high?
Well, on a year, she's talking about a young whip that doesn't really have any structural branches yet. I would just let it grow whatever it wants to grow for the first couple of years and not do anything to it. Other than take out crossing and broken branches until it can start forming some structure. You know, I've had the kids and I pruned a tree too young, and then we never really grew the structural branches we want. But when you take out the top, the leader, you're removing some hormones, growth hormones, and all kinds of things. You're really messing with the tree. So then it will branch out and get you some more stronger branches. So for the first year and maybe the second year, I wouldn't do much until you can get those branches forming.
There are some, looks like little shoots coming up from the very base of it.
Yeah, cut those all off. Those are suckers coming from the rootstock. So you really have 2 trees in one on any apple tree. So the apple tree is grown on a rootstock that they grafted to. It's really hardy and cold hardy for your area and stuff. And so that is a separate tree. And so that tree is trying to sucker and grow. And then your graft, which will be a knot on that branch right close to the ground, and it should be above the ground, is your graft. And everything above that graft is your fruit tree that you purchased, of the variety that you purchased.
Right. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Any other quick questions on this? Is going to be a kind of a short video, but.
Well, you know what, Patti? It's sometimes it's easier to see, like in those videos you took. So I put the link in the chat, and I also, Lori, I emailed it to you because Patti, like, actually, I took videos of her at our house showing her on like 3 different trees, right, that make it a little bit easier to see because the trees are like one of the trees is like 10 or 15 years old. One of the trees is like 4 years old, where you can see like that it's hip high, and there's a little more detail there, if that helps.
Yeah, and on those videos when I was at Jackie's place, I just went through each tree because each tree kind of develops its own personality and what needs to happen to it. And so those videos should really help anybody that's already got some fruit trees. How did our poll turn out, Jackie? What did it look like? Could you see it?
Hey, do you currently have an apple tree?
Oh, yes.
60% yes, 20% no, 20% is getting it a spring, and someone's going to plant one sometime. And is there a question in the chat? When can you trim out the water shoots that grow inside the tree in the summer?
So you want to let them grow until the next dormancy, unless you're growing against the fence like these. If you're growing against the fence like these, we're going to be taking them out during the summer. And that changes how the tree is going to react. And it will slow down its growth. The pruning we do in the winter speeds up the growth. And the ones we would do in the summer is going to reduce it. So those ones we do in summer is going to have to be a completely different video because it's a whole different mindset than just us taking care of the basic structure of the tree.
And then Eileen says, do you think growing along a fence with a blueberry, I could use the espalier technique?
You know, I grew up around blueberries in Michigan, and they just were really a true bush. And so it might be possible, but I've never seen it. You might have to study somebody else that's maybe tried it, but I just don't think so. But I'm also not a professional blueberry grower, so I don't know.
I'll say something really quick. One struggle I've noticed with that tree that we planted back in 2005, so it's like 15 years old now, is that it's so big, it shades. And blueberries, I think, like a lot of sun. So that would be my hesitation. You don't realize in the winter, you got to think that tree is going to have a lot of leaves. And like a lot of the beds we had under that, we had strawberries under it. Like a lot of that stuff, it does not see the sun now because that tree is so big. So, I mean, I guess if you're pruning them, they might not, but they're going to have a lot of leaves in the heat of summer when your blueberry is going to want the sunlight.
Yeah.
My hesitation.
Yeah, that's the thing is if you're going to try to prune a tree to not be 25 foot tall, you got to start in the first 3 years or so of its life and stay after it. Right, the trees I'm working with, though, I got to say, I think they're 3 or 4 years old when I get them, because they're already 4 to 5 foot tall. So they're already got some substance to their trunk when I get them. So when I'm talking about these years, it can get very confusing because like your whip might only be a year old or 2 years old, and the ones I've been buying are I know 4 years old.
Do the ones we get from St. Lawrence, are those bigger?
Yep, those are bigger. And then when you buy trees from the conservation districts, you try to always buy the tallest ones they can give you. So I don't ever go with those little tiny short ones because it's just way too much work and water and weeding and everything to even begin to get to the point of where we're getting on that first year when we're starting with that 4 foot tree.
And Mike also talked about fencing. Little trees need fencing from the deer. Like he put like I think a little fence around them before he built the big fence.
I have been lucky and haven't had to fence any.
Oh, from rabbits. So it's even
and mice.
Sorry, keep rabbits.
And voles, all of them can be really hard on fruit trees. So in their first few years, in fact, the Honeycrisp still has a protective barrier around it, the trunk, so that the mice don't come in and debark it. Because I've had great big gorgeous fruit trees that were now 6, 7 years old, and the mice come in and take all the bark off of it and kill the tree. So you do have to have a protection around the trunk the first few years for sure. And if you do have heavy deer pressure of whitetails or mule deer, you're probably going to have to make a structural fence around it until it can get big enough to handle some of their torture. But in my growing area, I'm lucky. Our community is not inundated with deer like some of the communities in Montana are inundated with mule deer to the point where they can't grow hardly anything because there's so many deer, or you're under fence. So, all right. So
Susan says, I have fencing around trees for the deer, which works well.
Yes,
we have fence. We have to have fence. Everything has to be fenced that we're growing, except peonies. Peonies grow outside.
Yep, and peonies are all edible. Did you know that? 100% edible. I didn't know that until this year. They're one of my favorite flowers. So why don't I ask you guys to help us out if you go to YouTube. I put these videos on YouTube, and that's where I also share the notes and any suggestions on what to buy for tools or videos that I recommend for you to watch. Like there's a separate video on sharpening your pruning tools. There's a separate one on making the tree go against the fence. And so you would find those on the YouTube site that's under the Petty Armbruster, the Agrarian Food Web channel. So Jackie, did you want to thank some patrons?
I do. We want to thank Lori, Jacqueline, Lacey, Eileen, and Sue for supporting our Patreon page. What are we going to talk about next week?
Next week, yes, I am going to be live in Livingston, Montana for a seed swap. And I'm going to encourage all of you to find a seed swap somewheres or if you don't find one, which you maybe some of yours have already stopped, right? They're over. And there's online ones that you could join. And so get involved, because the more that we understand how in jeopardy the seeds are and what we as gardeners and growers can do to help the situation, better off we're going to be. And so even if you just go to the seed swap and support them in any way that you can, that would be great. I will be presenting down there on creating better habitat for beneficials.
And the week after that, aren't you giving that speech for Free the Seeds if they want to attend a virtual?
Yes, I think both events could be on virtual. I know for sure Free the Seeds, which is the following weekend, is going to be virtual, and they got a whole host of different things that you can watch on theirs. So if you go to Free the Seeds, is it .com or .org? One of the two. If you just put in Free the Seeds, you'll find them. Normally they have a live session for a one-day session with 1,400 or more people at it. So they're having to really kind of narrow it down to be able to do it on the computers this year, but still I've got some great offering. So if you guys want some free education, that'd be a great place to go. And somebody's got squirrels. They're another issue. I haven't had any problem with my squirrels, but my squirrels are harvesting the seeds off the green ash trees, and that's what they pretty much live on in the winter. I don't know what's going to happen when the green ash trees, they're starting to really struggle. They got big problems going on with green ash trees. So if your community is predominantly green ash tree, get to planting other trees, because they're not faring well with the new pest that's attacking them. There's a beetle after them. Okay, what else we got, Jackie?
I was going to say, we have big problems with squirrels on our apple trees. We have to get out there and grab the apples before so they can decimate the tree in like an afternoon.
What do they take off, the large apples or the little baby apples? A full grown apple?
They eat them right when they're ripe, as soon as they turn ripe. So it's like, I don't know, you got to kind of keep, I don't know. It's funny because we have two trees right by the kitchen right here, and then the orchard's way down there. Maybe it's because they're so close to the fence that they can run. No, that can't be. I don't know. I just know the squirrel has gotten his share of apples some years. Anyway, next week you will be live in Livingston.
Yes.
And we want to thank all our seedlings on Patreon. Please stay on the line for the after show where we're going to answer your growing questions. So if you have more questions, we are happy to answer them for patrons.
Because a lot of people leave way too much fruit on the tree. It overproduces, and then it will only produce every other year instead of every year. So we'll get into that later in our further education. So until then, grow healthy and stay safe. Let's create a healthier world. Everybody. See you guys.